Thank you so much. Well, welcome everyone. I'm very, very glad to be here with 40 Plus and all of you today. My name is Dr. Elisse Barnes, and I am your LinkedIn driving instructor. And I am excited for the presentation today. All right, so I have a sort of different view of LinkedIn than many people in that they focus on people finding you. And my focus is on being what you can find on LinkedIn. There is a lot of information that you can find on LinkedIn. But first, I want to share a little bit about what I do. I do small group hands-on LinkedIn training. And I do it primarily for job seekers, career transitioners, nonprofit leaders, and small business owners 45 and older. And my goal is making sure that they know how to get the most impact out of 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. And I use what I call my driving instructor methodology. I believe that if you are driven somewhere, you don't pay attention and you probably can't get back. But if you drive yourself, you can. So I sit in the passenger seat and I let you work on your profile in real time with my guidance. But you're doing the driving so that your mind will make mental roadmaps that when you click on one button, a certain screen comes up, and then when you click on something else, another screen comes up. So the goal is for you to be able to get back once our session ends. And I think that's important for it to stick. I know that I've gone to many LinkedIn presentations and other kinds of presentations, and particularly ones where there's no opportunity for me to actually do the work. And what I find is that I've forgotten 70% of it by the time I get to the parking lot. So I developed this method in the hopes that the information would stick. But I also know that many of us of a certain age have concerns about our privacy online. We don't share personal information online, don't want it on the web. And so I think it's important to respect people's online privacy and security concerns. And so we spend a lot of time in the back office making sure that people feel safe, that their information is not going to get out, some stranger's not going to end up at their front door, they're not going to be hacked, so that if they feel safe, they will then use the tool. So I want to get a few housekeeping things out of the way. There will be 3 5-minute Q&A sessions during this presentation. So if you have a question, just please type your question into the chat before we get to the Q&A break, so that then when it comes up, I can answer as many questions as possible during the 5-minute interval. Also keep in mind that 40 Plus does record this event, so you can watch it later on YouTube, and they're going to try to get it up on YouTube as quickly as possible. All right, so put on your seatbelts and let's get started. Okay, so everyone says if you're a job seeker, you need to be on LinkedIn. It's important for you to be on LinkedIn, but they don't tell you why. And I think it's important for you to understand why LinkedIn is important for you as a job seeker. Number one, it allows you to tell your professional story and to demonstrate your expertise. And that's especially important if you're a career transitioner. 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates. Many of the recruiters themselves are 40 and under, and they do everything online. It enables you to exponentially expand your network at a time when it's contracting. As we get older, our networks start to contract, or if we've been in a position for a long period of time, our networks may have contracted. People begin to retire. And that's especially important if you're older and you've been out of work for a while, perhaps your networks have contracted as well. And finding a job is all about networking. So LinkedIn enables you to expand your networks, and you're doing it at home in your comfy pants. You're not wandering around DC paying $25 an hour for parking, being in a room with 500 other people trying to be a professional card ninja where you're just trying to distribute as many cards as you can or trying to think of something to say to break the ice. You can do this all online. It also allows you to recruit job search allies, people who will help you tap into the hidden market, job market, will provide information for you before it hits the streets. I always say, if the only person looking for a job for you is you, you're never going to find it. What you want is other people to be engaged in this job search with you, so they are funneling information to you. And LinkedIn gives you ways to stay on their radar screen without asking for anything. I always really resent people who only call me when they want something. They only reach out to me when they want something, when they want a favor, or they want money, or they have a problem. LinkedIn, because of the notifications you receive, like it's someone's work anniversary or it's their birthday, allows you to stay on the radar screen without asking for anything. And if you do that, then when you do ask for something, they don't have a feeling that they're being used. It also empowers you to actively research the public face of potential employers and then to mimic their language and priorities when you communicate with them. Often what companies post on LinkedIn or other social media is more current than their brochure, which has to go through printing and editing and a long process, or even their website. So this will give you an opportunity to see what their priorities are so that you can speak their language and mimic back to them their priorities so that you seem like an insider, you seem like a good fit. So I really encourage people to follow the companies that they're interested in working with on LinkedIn so that they can gather this information so that all of their communication, whether it's their cover letter or in an interview, they know what the priorities of the company are. And sometimes the most important priorities are the ones that happen after 5 o'clock. Are they very into volunteerism? Are they into the environment? Do they volunteer for schools or cleanup in their neighborhood? All of these things you can use to separate yourself from other candidates. LinkedIn also enables you to increase your network without leaving your house and finding a job. And finding a job is all about networking, which is a point I made earlier. Hiring managers are also using LinkedIn as the bridge between the resume review and the interview. So say they get 500 applications for a job and the applicant tracking system gets it down to 25. They still don't want to talk to 25 people. So often they will Google you, and what will usually come up first is your LinkedIn profile. And so they're using this to find out more information to decide if they want to interview you. And that's why it is a missed opportunity to provide them with additional information if all your LinkedIn profile is your resume and a photo. Because if they have your resume in hand, they already have that information. Now they're trying to find out more. Employers hire people, not resumes. So LinkedIn allows you to become someone a potential employer knows, likes, and trusts because we connect to people we know, like, and trust. We do business with people we know, like, and trust. We hire people we know, like, and trust. And finally, it empowers you to tap into the hidden job market. So I want you to think about how you got your last 3 jobs. And my guess is that at least one of them came through the hidden market, the hidden job market. In other words, a referral. The hidden job market are jobs that are never published or posted because they are filled internally or through referrals. And there are estimates that are as high as 80%, as many as 80% of jobs are filled through the hidden job market. And this is especially true with small businesses, which are the engines of the economy. So it's very important to tap into that market. So here's some of the benefits of tapping into the hidden job market. Again, most jobs are filled here and are never published. Networking is much more effective than sending hundreds of resumes to enter the applicant tracking system. And by the time many jobs are posted on Monster or Indeed or other job boards, they could be weeks old. The company may already be interviewing candidates. So you really want to get in there early, because the best time to find out about an opening is before it hits the streets, when you are competing with a much smaller pool of people. If you look at it from the employer's perspective, their goal is to fill an opening as quickly and easily and as inexpensively as possible. They don't want to comb through 500 resumes. They don't even want to comb through 25 resumes if they can. They just want to fill the job as quickly as possible. And then would they rather pay a recruiter or a talent search firm? That's an expense as well. That's why a lot of companies actually give employee bonuses and incentives for referrals. And the value in that for them is that the employee already knows the culture of the company. So they're doing some of the vetting by referring someone. So that helps. They would probably not refer someone that they didn't think was a fit for the company. But the other piece of that is that if someone in the company is making a referral, that reflects on them if it doesn't work out well. So they're not likely to recommend someone who is unqualified, because that will reflect poorly on them. So again, the employee is vetting the potential new hire. So, so does LinkedIn work? I mean, that really is the question. Does LinkedIn work? So I just want to share a few little stories. One is I actually got a job through LinkedIn. And the way that happened was, I'm sure you've gotten these notifications that say someone's been looking at your profile. Well, I got one of those notifications and I went to see who it was. And it was the executive director of an association who had 2 years prior offered me a job, which I had turned down. And now he was looking at my profile. And so I wrote him a note, and the note said, "I hope you and your wife are having a good summer." And he wrote me back, "Remember that position from 2 years ago? It's open again. Would you be interested?" And as it happened, 2 years later, I was. I've also made connections to companies I want to work for or with through LinkedIn. One of my dream clients would be AARP. And so I posted about a presentation that I did, a LinkedIn presentation I did for a local AARP sponsored back to work group. And I posted about making a LinkedIn presentation there, and someone in my network commented on my post. When she commented on my post, it then appeared on the feed of all of her connections, one of whom happened to be a director at AARP. Now, I didn't know that he was a part of her network, but he saw my post because she had commented on it. And then he reached out to me and said, "I wasn't aware of the work that you're doing with our local organizations. I'd like to talk to you more about it." So instead of me chasing AARP, now someone from AARP is reaching out to me. I've also made money through LinkedIn. As I mentioned, you probably get these notifications about people's birthdays and work anniversaries. And so I had met the executive director of a grant making organization 2 or 3 years before, and I got a notice saying it was her birthday. And so I sent her a happy birthday. And I always do more than just click the happy birthday button. I always include the person's name and another sentence wishing them well. And 2 days later, her assistant called me to ask me to sit on a review panel. And that review panel paid $200 for a day's work. So I wasn't more qualified 3 years later from when I had met her 3 years earlier. It's just that I had dropped off her radar screen. And when I sent the happy birthday message, I popped back up on her radar screen. They were looking for review panelists, and so she gave my name to her assistant. And also LinkedIn is why I'm here today, actually. again, I got one of those notifications saying someone is looking at your profile, and it happened to be Jeffrey Collins. And so I went to Jeffrey's profile, and he seemed like a person I would be interested in connecting with. And so I thanked him for visiting my profile, invited him to connect, and he said, oh, by the way, we happen to have an opening May 4th. Would you be interested? What I want you to see from all of these stories is that at no point did I ask for anything. I did not ask for a job. I did not ask for an opportunity to speak. I did not ask to sit on a review panel. I simply engaged with these people on a relational basis. I hope you and your wife are having a good summer. Let's connect, okay? So LinkedIn is relational, not transactional. And that's where you get your, the return on your investment of time from developing relationships. So as I said, success on LinkedIn is relational, not transactional. So let's talk about what the relationships are on LinkedIn. Your first degree connections are people that you've extended an invitation to connect to, or they've extended an invitation to you to connect. And you said yes. You've accepted their invitation or they have accepted yours. And so now when you go to their profile, you will see first beside their name. So that means they are first degree connections and you can send them unlimited messages, and you will see whatever they post. They will see whatever you post. You can also give them recommendations and endorsements. Second degree connections are people that you are not connected to, but you have a mutual connection. You have a person in common. So I don't believe I'm connected to John, but John and I are probably both connected to Jeffrey. So that would mean John would be a second degree connection to me because we have a mutual connection in Jeffrey. Third degree connections would be people you have a second degree connection to. So you have you have a second degree connection in common, right? So then there are groups. And it's important to remember that you may be a member of a group, but that does not mean that you are connected to everyone in the group. You're just in the group together. But you are not a first degree connection to everyone that you are in a group with, but that's a great way to grow your network, is to invite some of those people who you're in a group with to connect. So anytime you post something and people begin to interact with what you post, that's an opportunity to invite them to connect, to grow your network. So I want you to understand why the power of LinkedIn is in who you find, not who finds you. Again, as I mentioned, we do business and hire people we know, like, and trust. So how do you become one of those people? And the friend of my friend is my friend, right? So again, how can you be introduced as a friend of Jeffrey as opposed to one of 5,000 people applying for a job? And so that sticks in the HR director's brain as opposed to, oh no, one of these other resumes, as opposed to you coming in as the friend of someone who they trust, right? I always say the best way to find a job is for your immediate supervisor to walk your resume down to HR, or the person who would be your immediate supervisor if you got the job, to walk your resume down to HR and say, I want to hire Jeffrey Collins. That is a job that you got. Unless you're just wildly unqualified, if the person who is going to be your supervisor walks down your resume and says, I want to hire this person, that changes the function of HR from weeding you out to bringing you in. So how do you connect with those people? How do you find them? And then the second best way is a former colleague or a former classmate, someone you've worked with or know in another setting, walks your resume down to HR and says, I know we're looking for a marketing director, and I went to school with, or I worked with John Wilhelm, and he was great. Now, again, in that situation, you may not get the job, but you will certainly get the interview. You will certainly get an opportunity to interview, if for no other reason than out of professional courtesy to the person who made the recommendation. So again, how do you find those classmates? How do you find those colleagues? LinkedIn enables you to find those people and connect with them either directly or through a mutual connection. So I want to show you how you can do this, and you do not need to be, you do not need to have premium, which is the paid version of LinkedIn, to do this search. I get from a lot of people the question, do I need to have premium? And my philosophy on premium is there's no reason to buy it until you bump up against the limits of what you are able to do for free. And there's a lot that you're able to do for free that many of us are not doing. Now, I have premium because in my teaching capacity, I do lots of searches. And so I bump up against the limits of the number of searches they allow per month. But for most people, that is not the case. So I want to get to LinkedIn here. Let's see, let me go back. Is there a way to, okay. So again, this is a search that you can do. So we all, generally people have warm feelings about their school experience. And so if someone invites me to connect from any of my previous schools, whether we were there at the same time or not, I'm usually glad to connect with them because we're all Buckeyes. We all went to Ohio State, or we all went, in my case, Yale or Stanford. So I'm happy to do that. So it's important to have the logos of your schools and your previous employers, and you can only get the logo if they have a company page on LinkedIn, but most schools do. So I'm going to choose Yale, and if you click on the logo, it will take you to their company page. So this is the Yale University page, and you'll see alumni. If you click on alumni, it will bring up this box. And you'll see that there are over 113,000 Yale alumni who have LinkedIn profiles. But that's a huge number. So let's just limit it to those in the Washington, D.C. area. Now that number has now come down to 6,500, which is a whole lot less than 113,000, but still pretty massive, okay? So you'll see here where they work. So let's say that I wanted to find out more about working at the World Bank. That's my target company. I really want to work there. So I click on World Bank, and now that number has shrunk to 49, okay? So again, a much more manageable number. So what that's saying is that 49 Yalees work at the World Bank. The next screen, if you hit next, shows what they do. 21 work in finance, 9 in operations, community service, community and social services, and then what they study. You see economics, and all of these are things that you can use as a point of connection. Maybe you majored in economics as well. This is something that you can talk with people about when you meet with them or have a phone conversation with them. So if you hit next, it says what they're skilled at, but here's the most important thing. 2 of them, I have a second-degree connection with. So I click on the 2, and at the bottom, it shows the people that could potentially introduce me as a Yale colleague. So, or I could connect with these people, begin a conversation with them based on our Yale connection, and then ask them to tell me about working at the World Bank. Okay, so if I go to Nicole's page, what I will see is that our mutual connections are Stephanie Williams and Unique Redwood. So I can say to Stephanie, Stephanie, I see that you're connected to Nicole at World Bank. Would you be willing to introduce me to her? Or you could approach Nicole directly and say, I see that we are mutual friends of my dear friend Stephanie. I'm interested in learning more about World Bank. Would you be willing to share? But now I'm approaching her as a friend of Stephanie, not just some strange person out of the blue, right? Again, Stephanie could be willing to do a virtual introduction where she says, this is my friend Elisse. Elisse, this is my friend Nicole. Nicole, Elisse is interested in working at World Bank or finding out more about World Bank or finding about your experience at World Bank, because people will talk about their jobs. Even if they hate their jobs, they're willing to talk with you about them. And so now I am approaching her not as a stranger, but as a friend of Stephanie. Now you can do this not only with your universities, but you can also do this with your companies that you've worked for as well. So again, anywhere you see the logo and they have a company page, it will show you the connections you have that work there, and also all of the employees who work there that have LinkedIn profiles. Okay. All right, so it's time for our first Q&A.
Elisse, we have a lot of questions.
I'm sure.
I don't even know how to go through. I think there's already more than we're going to get to, but
Sure.
do you want to start in order that they came in, or?
Sure, that's fine.
All right, so I got to go back.
I'll let you curate. I trust you.
Okay, so Craig would like to say, has a concern about the age of recruiters, as it appears they are tending to be younger candidates who may come less experienced and don't have the requisite experience being sought. How do we deal with that? So the concern is that the recruiters appear to be younger.
Yes, they are.
And they may not have the experience to recognize, I guess, Craig's expertise. You know, they can't appreciate what he's accomplished. So how can he address that?
Well, I mean, again, if you demonstrate your expertise on LinkedIn by making posts that demonstrate your expertise, making smart, incisive comments, and being involved in groups around your expertise becomes more important than your age. The most important thing is people want the best. They don't want the oldest, they want the best. So if you can demonstrate that you know your stuff, that you are good at what you do, that will outweigh your age.
I guess the term we use is thought leadership.
Yes, absolutely. Show that you're a thought leader. Show that you're a subject matter expert. That you know. And
you do that by sharing posts.
Or sharing content. You don't necessarily have to create. That's one of the things that people think that, oh, now I've got to generate all this new content all the time. If you share a good article that you find, if you curate good information, that is a service that you are providing to your network, because there is so much information out there. But if you show me what is good, if you tell me about a really great conference, or an important upcoming deadline, or a great certification program, that's not original content, but that is very useful to your network.
Okay, so we'll go next in line. We have, could you spend some time on things that are presumed or need to be understood on both sides of this virtual dividing line. So I guess from the recruiters and from the, and us as individuals.
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Yeah, could we, can you give us a little more information on that, Murad? We'll go to the next one
Next
while
question, yeah.
um, all right, I'm a small business owner. Will you talk about how to locate potential candidates for part-time contract work that is needed, like as a bookkeeper or virtual assistant? So
Yes, you can type that into the search box, and people who have bookkeeper in their profiles, again, you can search very specifically in terms of the location that you want. There's also LinkedIn Pro, which is like Fiverr or freelancer.com websites where you can describe the work that you would like to be done. And LinkedIn Pros, people who have been vetted by LinkedIn, will submit bids for your work, the work that you would like to have done. And most of them, they segment them to like the Eastern Seaboard, the Atlantic region. So they're regional people who are bidding on your work. So that's a great place to find people who can do the work that you need, LinkedIn Pro.
all right, so purchase link, is that a paid?
No, it's not. You can submit, the people who are LinkedIn pros, they have to pay, but for people who want to look for people, you can actually, you don't have to pay for that. But the people who want to be designated as pros so they can receive your bids, they do have to be, be on a premium program. Yeah.
Very good. We have Ren is, how can we be in charge of what is seen when we are Googled? Is there any way to do that?
Well, Google is pretty much in charge of that, but some of it has to do with your activity. So if you're very, very active on other social media platforms, your Facebook might come up first. But generally, LinkedIn comes up first.
Okay. I have a full profile, but haven't ever done any posting on LinkedIn. If I'm a writer wanting to share a new piece that I have published elsewhere, what's the best way to share that article?
Well, you could, if it is published, you could just share the link. You could introduce it and then share the link. And that's one of the great features of LinkedIn is if you share something from another website, so if you share something from the Washington Post or Forbes or something, that whatever image that is assigned to that article will come with the post. So you don't have to look for an image if you're sharing images from another website that already has an image assigned to it. If you do your own original post, then you have to look for an image to go with it. And you could use something like canva.com to find a free image. Keep in mind though that people's attention spans are pretty short. So if it's long, you probably don't want to post it on LinkedIn, no more than 2,000 or so words. There's a distinction between an update or on LinkedIn, which is, I call it the difference between what I'm doing and what I know. An update is what I'm doing, like I'm speaking for 40 plus. An article is my 4 rules of the road, where I'm demonstrating my expertise. That's an article that's a little longer, as opposed to a post, which tends to be shorter, which is this is activity. This is what I'm engaged in. I was at this conference, so I gave this presentation. I won this award. So I had a friend, for example, who is a kitchen and bath designer, and she won an award from an association for her design of a bathroom. The post or the update was a picture of her with her award saying I won this award. I was very happy for this honor. But embedded in that post or that update was a link to her article where she described how the before and after of this bathroom that she won an award for. So she demonstrated her expertise of getting this outdated bathroom to something beautiful in the article.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We have a great question for Robin I want to get to.
Okay.
You know, since we customize resumes
Yes.
for the job,
Yes.
what do we do? How can we, you know, reconcile that with our LinkedIn profile that is going to be static?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I tell people resumes are title driven. You know, I was director of this and manager of that. LinkedIn is skill driven. What are the skills that you bring to every position, no matter what the title is? There's a certain skill set that you offer that is unique to you, that you bring, that what you're really, really good at, no matter what the title of the job is. And those are the ones that you want to promote on your LinkedIn profile, because that does not change. Your skill set does not change, even if your title or your industry does change. So that is the sort of the difference between, say, the different resumes that you have versus the skill set that you bring to every job that you offer. And you want to, well, we'll talk about that more in the next section. So
Okay, so
that's a good segue, actually, because we're
right,
so 5-minute mark.
All right, I apologize for anybody whose question we didn't get to, but we'll let you go back, Elisse. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I want to talk about the biggest misperceptions about LinkedIn. And one is that it's only about employers finding and connecting with you, okay? Because you need to use it to find employers, okay? To find connections, to find people to build relationships with who will tap you into the hidden job market. It is not just your resume and a photo, okay? It is also, there's this notion, this misperception that all you have to do is create the quote unquote perfect profile and recruiters will be knocking down your door. And that is also not true. There are 660 million profiles on LinkedIn, what's over that actually. And that it's only for job seekers. It's not. It's also very useful for nonprofit leaders to do relationship management with their donors, potential donors, their clients, their sponsors, their grant makers. And it's also useful for small business owners as well, so that they can develop strategic referral partners who will help them expand their business. So here's why if you build it, they will come approach does not work on LinkedIn. As I mentioned, there are over 660 million profiles on LinkedIn, and none of us are truly unique, at least professionally, in what we do. There are hundreds of thousands of civil engineers. There are hundreds of thousands of program managers. There are hundreds of thousands of technical editors and marketing specialists. So just having a profile does not separate you and get you what you need. And I think this sit back and wait approach is part of the problem when I talk to people who say, oh, well, you know, I have a profile, but, you know, LinkedIn just doesn't work for me. I mean, I just don't get anything out of it. Well, you have to put into it, you have to engage with it before it works. LinkedIn rewards activity with visibility. So the number of connections that you have, your posting activity, your likes, your comments, your shares, your giving endorsements, your writing recommendations, all of this helps make you more visible to recruiters because you are active and your name keeps popping up. I can't tell you the number of people who say, I see you on LinkedIn all the time. So what I'm doing is carving out a space that says, I know what I'm doing. I know my business. You want to hire me. the order of profiles that are presented when someone types in a certain skill set, that order is not random, okay? It is a combination of the relationship, so people that you have a first-degree relationship with, they will come up first, and then location, so those in the Washington, D.C. area, but then activity comes into play as well. So even if you are a perfect fit for a job, even if you have all the keywords in there, likely there are others who have the keywords in their profiles as well, and say there are 225 people who have the keywords, the right keywords in their profiles that this recruiter is searching under. The ones who are active will be on the first page, will be higher up in the queue versus the people who have no activity. They put up a profile and then left it and did nothing. If there's 225, those people are going to be at the end. They're going to be 220 through 225. Okay. So there are two more reasons why LinkedIn is an essential tool for people over 40 who are job seekers. One of the stereotypes against older workers is that we're not tech savvy, okay? And that we're not willing to learn anything new. You can only do LinkedIn on a computer. So obviously you know how to work a computer if you're on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is only 17 years old. In fact, tomorrow is its launch birthday. It was launched on May 5th of 2003. So you've obviously been willing to learn something new in the last 20 years if you're on LinkedIn. So it demonstrates that you're willing to learn something new and that you're tech savvy because you're able to use a computer, you're able to get on LinkedIn. And it also enables you to get the information you need to know that's never in the job announcement. When you connect with a human being, they will tell you things, and they may not tell you online, which is why it's important to get the conversation offline once you started online, but they will tell you things like, we've had a lot of turnover in this department because the department manager is toxic. That's never going to be in the job announcement. There's a rumor that our company is about to be acquired by another company. That's never in the job announcement, okay? But that's the information that you as a job seeker need to know, okay? So LinkedIn allows you to connect with those people who will share that information with you, again, offline. So that's another reason why LinkedIn is very, very important for people 40 over, who are over 40 who are job seekers. Now, I want to talk about how LinkedIn differs from other social media and also from your resume, which we talked a little bit in the question and answer session. LinkedIn is for professional networking, unlike Facebook, which is for personal networking, okay? People talk about their grandchildren, they talk, you know, they show pictures of their weddings and their parents, and that's personal networking. LinkedIn is professional networking, and the culture of LinkedIn is to try to keep it that way. They really want it to stay. The people on LinkedIn want it to stay professional. They do not want it to become Facebook, okay? So, and of course, with over 660 million people with profiles, there's some people who violate it. But if you look in the comments, there will usually be people who are saying, you know, take that to Facebook. We don't want that here. You should definitely avoid religion and politics, unlike Twitter, which is just full of religion and politics. So those are two things that you want to stay away from on LinkedIn. Your resume is backward looking. It's just a list of what you've done for your previous employers. But LinkedIn is forward facing. And so it's about what you can do for your next employer. And it may or may not be related to what you did for your previous employer. But again, you have to look at it from the potential next employer's point of view. They want to know what you can do for them, right? You should avoid what I call resume speak. Terms like experienced, demonstrated history of, proven, goal-oriented, mission-driven, enthusiastic, detail-oriented. for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've never known a recruiter to type enthusiastic or energetic or detail-oriented in the search box when they're looking for someone, okay? Second of all, you have a limited amount of real estate to make your case. And you have to do it quickly. No one is ever going to say that they're not detail-oriented. But I'm amazed at the number of people who put detail-oriented and then have typos on their LinkedIn profile, which pretty much says they're not detail-oriented, okay? Everyone says they're mission-driven. All of these are cliches. All of these are resume speak. All of these are terms that ultimately are so overused, and experienced in particular is one that is so vague, because if I asked each one of you what experienced means, I get 100 different answers. For some people, it's 6 months. For some people, it's 10 years. For some people, it's 5 years. So a word that has so many definitions at this point is essentially meaningless. So what I recommend to people is that if they want to point out that they do have a certain number of years in the field, then use a number, say 7+ or 10+. I wouldn't go past 15, because then again, you're pretty much saying you're old. But I see many profiles that begin with their about section, which is the summary, begins with 25+ years of demonstrated professional work experience, or 25+ years of professional work experience. And I say, okay, you spent all those characters basically telling me nothing except that you're old and you worked. And that is not a compelling reason to hire you. You can use the first person in LinkedIn. We know you wrote this. So this is your opportunity to tell your story. This is, again, how it separates from a resume that's very locked into third person, bullets, 2 pages. All of those rules do not apply to LinkedIn. You are telling your professional story, but most importantly, you're telling the employer what you can do to solve their problem or help them reach their goal. So it should be focused on what they want. How you can help them get to where they want to go, not that you want an opportunity to achieve your highest career self. Again, they're not going to pay you for your self-fulfillment. They're going to pay you if you can help them reach their goals. And leave the superlatives to your recommenders. Again, we know you wrote this. So if you're saying you are the #1 top most important or best motivational speaker in the world, I know you wrote this, and unless you can actually prove that somehow, I just think you're really kind of full of yourself. So leave all of the superlatives to your recommenders. So what sets LinkedIn apart? Let's contrast what LinkedIn is and what it is not. It is your online professional value proposition. This is the value that I bring professionally if you hire me. It is your professional biography. Okay, I can bring this because I've worked in these different places. I've had these accomplishments, and you really want to focus on your accomplishments when you're describing your jobs, not just your responsibilities so that it reads like the job announcement, but what you accomplished. How did you help this organization go from good to great? It is your digital first impression, because often this is where people will encounter you online for the first time. It is a forward-looking online sales pitch for you, okay? It is your opportunity to distinguish yourself from all the other people who do what you do. People say, oh, you know, that's interesting. You're a LinkedIn trainer. That's a unique field. Well, I wasn't even the top LinkedIn trainer in Montgomery County when I started in this field. There was someone else whose name came up every time I said I was a LinkedIn trainer. So there are lots of people who do what we do. But my distinction is that I train people over 45, and I would, you know, that is my niche, okay? So what is your niche? What is your special sauce, your skill set that distinguishes you from all the other people that do what you do? And how can you apply that to help your next employer get to where they want to go? And it is a 24/7 open line of communication between you and your next employer. Right? Because I can get this information about you at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. It's always available to me. Okay, so what it is not your resume and a photo. It is not something you can set and forget. Okay, I put a profile on and now I'm done and now magic is going to happen. No, it is not. It is not Facebook. Again, we don't want personal information. We don't want to know about your children, your grandchildren. There should not be a photo. Your headshot should not include a picture of your dog or anyone else except you. It's not a place to be vague because you want to, when someone comes to your profile, they want to know quickly what it is that you offer. And if I have to search for it, I'm not going to. If it's vague, I'm not going to because I can just scroll to someone else. And it's not just another job board. Okay? So there are jobs on LinkedIn, that's true, but it is more than just a job board because again, it's about building relationships. So why is a complete profile important? It's important because complete profiles are 40 times more likely to receive offers through LinkedIn. And an incomplete profile sends the message that either you're not serious, you're not tech savvy, or you do not complete what you start, which is not a good first impression. So what is a complete profile? It's your name, your full name. You could include a middle initial or a maiden name if you've gone by another name for a long time. I got married fairly late in life, so I have my maiden name in there because there are a lot of people who still know me as Elisse Wright. A headline, which is about 120 characters. Your headline is the text that appears immediately under your name, and it follows you all over LinkedIn. If I never come to your profile, I will still see your headshot, your name, and your headline. Your location and industry. Your industry is hidden, but it is searchable by recruiters. So you want to select an industry in the top section of your profile, and even though you can't see it, it is searchable. Your location you will see, and I recommend that you, unless you just want to work in a specific city, you have the option of choosing your specific location, like Silver Spring, Maryland, where I am today, or the greater Washington area. If you are only willing to work in your city, then you can put Silver Spring or Rockville, but most of us are willing to work in the Washington, D.C. area. So I encourage you to select the greater Washington, D.C. area as your location rather than your specific town. There's the About section, which used to be referred to as the summary, which is where you put context on your headline. You also have to, should include a current position with a description, 2 additional positions, your education, at least 5 skills, a headshot, and at least 50 connections. And remember, any place you see the little pin in the upper right-hand corner is a place that can be updated or changed. All right. We're at our next 5-minute break. John?
Great. We have a bunch of questions.
Of course.
Let's start with this one because I think this is probably the one that people are most interested. Can you share with us some of the search words recruiters do use?
Again, it depends on your industry. So, again, if you're a marketing specialist or if you're an engineer or, so again, the way I tell people to find the keywords to use for their profile is to get 2 to 3 job announcements of positions that they are interested in, and go to a website called Tag Crowd, and Tag Crowd creates word clouds. And you can paste in the text from those job announcements to create a word cloud and the words that are most repeated most often, and you can eliminate, a and the and. And those are the key words because they have come up most often in those job announcements, and those are the ones you should use because those are the ones that recruiters are going to use to find people for those positions.
Great. Should we always accept possible contacts? So somebody reaches out.
Yes, yes. And I cover that in this next section about having a connection strategy. So that question is coming up next.
Okay, great. All right, how do you handle dates when you were old? So like, for example, in graduation, what's the best strategy there?
Yeah. I mean, you can choose not to include the dates, but again, I think we give ageism too much power, frankly. And again, I think if you establish your expertise, I mean, I know like a lot of people don't want to include photos because they say, oh, they'll see my gray hair. And I say, well, do you really want to work for a company that would choose not to hire the best person for the job because they have gray hair? That's a pretty superficial kind of company, and I don't know that you would be happy there. So the question is, can you make your case? And also, the other thing that's so important is that I think sometimes we have what I call self-inflicted wounds. People who say, I'm a marketing specialist, and I say, okay, or I do marketing and public relations. I say, okay, what social media platforms do you specialize in? Oh, I don't do social media. Well, then I say, well, then you don't do marketing, right? Because in this day and age, marketing is all about social media, okay? So for you to then turn around and say they didn't hire me because I was old, I say, no, they didn't hire you because you didn't update your skills, right? There are lots of great certificate programs that will allow you to update your skills to prove that you are current. So you have to establish that your skill set, and also understand that there are assumptions like we're not tech savvy or that we want a lot of money that are the elephant in the room. So if you address that early on, that you're not going to come in thinking you know everything, that you are willing to learn, that you're not going to be condescending toward younger people, all of these assumptions follow us, right? That you're going to want to be in charge. All of those things you have to understand that you have to address in some way. And by showing that you are willing to learn, there are lots of certificates through LinkedIn Learning that you can get that show once you get it, you can put it on your profile. So you're demonstrating that you are updating your skills and you are willing to learn. So I think that's very, very important, more so than, oh, I graduated at a certain date at a certain time. All of those things become less important if you show that you are a thought leader in your field.
What should you post if you don't have a current position?
Yes. The experience section says experience. It does not say paid experience. It just says experience. So that first job, the first line in your experience section is the default for your headline. So whatever you put as the first job in your experience section, that's what LinkedIn will automatically put as your headline. So you have to deliberately change that to your skill set. But that first position, if you're not currently in a position, you can put a volunteer position that you're in. If you're working in an unpaid position, I would put that as a position, because you don't want to create the impression that you're just sitting home and watching soap operas all day. I don't know if there are any soap operas still on, but that you're not sitting home and watching Netflix all day. So even if your experience is currently volunteer, you can list that in your experience if you are using your skill set. And that is, again, what you want to put forward, your skill set, you can use that as your current position. So I hope you're doing something with your time like volunteering.
Well, and that's a great point, because at 40 Plus in our career transition skills course, we teach, strategic volunteerism as a way to fill in gaps where you don't have skills. It's a great way to pick up skills that are holding you back, to actually prepare you for a promotion. And so we highly recommend that in our course. And actually, if you come to us at 40 Plus, we have openings that we have. Well, right now, the biggest post I would like to fill is our Director of Communication, Marketing and Communications. So that is a huge role that we need to fill. So if you're interested in that, please give me an email at execdur@40plus.com.
Awesome.
And so, but I think that's really important. People put limitations on it, but we all know that once this pandemic is open, is over, people are going to be asking, how did you spend your
How did you
time?
spend your time? Yes,
And you want to be able to show that you used it productively, either to
absolutely.
develop skills or experience. And so
Absolutely.
there's so many great ways. I want to get to one other question
Okay.
uh, that we had here, and it's should we and it's a yes or no.
Hmm.
Should we post our resumes on LinkedIn?
You can post it as a document, but the most important thing is to complete the LinkedIn profile itself and that it be different from your resume.
And you know what, we actually recommend at 40 plus that you don't post it.
Hmm.
And the reason is you want to be able to customize your resume for the job. And if you
Sure.
have it posted up there, you don't
Hmm.
have the ability to change it. So
Sure.
we recommend that you don't do that.
Yeah. I
But
mean, it's
but
not the
yeah,
most important thing. It's about building those relationships.
that's right. If that, I think that's a great point,
Mhm.
that LinkedIn is about building relationships and
That's right.
connecting virtually.
That's
All
right.
right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so
Let's
much.
keep going.
Yes.
All right. So here are my your LinkedIn driving instructors 4 rules of the road for success on LinkedIn. Here are my 4 rules of the road. Focus on the top third. Plant your flag, cast a broad net, and engage. I hope I have a few Star Trek Next Generation fans out there. You'll recognize Jean-Luc Picard. Okay, so in a newspaper, the most important stories are above the fold. So you want to focus on the top third of your profile, and that's everything from the about section up. Because when someone comes to your profile, that's what they're going to see first. And if you don't catch their interest there, what follows doesn't matter because they're never going to see it. They're not going to scroll down to see the rest. So it's important that you get that right. So let's start with the sections of that top third. The first thing is the banner, and that's the blue area behind your headshot. And a lot of people don't take advantage of that opportunity to showcase their skill set. But human beings are visual creatures. And so you want to use images in that banner that will reinforce your message about your skill set. Images have as much impact as words. Think about the Nike swoosh. When you see that, your mind immediately says, just do it. When you see the Starbucks logo, your mind immediately thinks expensive coffee. So these images have power. So you want to take advantage of that power as well to find an image that reinforces your message about your skill set. Your headshot, yes, you need one. Most of us grew up, our parents telling us, don't talk to strangers. So you don't want to be a stranger, but also if you don't have a photo, people wonder what it is you're trying to hide. What's so terrible about your face? You want a photo that is friendly because no one wants to work next to a grump. You want it to be industry congruent. So if you work in a field where people wear polo shirts and you would look odd in a suit, then don't have a photo on your LinkedIn profile in a suit. If you work in a creative industry, then you can get away with larger jewelry or brighter colors because that is the norm in your industry. So you're telegraphing that you're a good fit. You want the photo to be close enough that I could find you in a crowded Starbucks if we're meeting for the first time after corresponding or communicating on LinkedIn. And you don't want it to be more than 5 years old. I have a dear friend that I went to college with, and his LinkedIn photo is his college photo. And if he were to be interviewed for a job and they had looked at his LinkedIn profile and then he walked in 50 pounds heavier with a bunch of gray hair, they're now going to start wondering what else he's lying about because he's lied about the way he looks. So you don't want to start off that way with an air of mistrust. So you want a current photo that looks like you. Most headlines fall into a couple of categories, either who I am, author, program manager, civil engineer, or what I do, It could be, am executive coach helping, aspiring partners, or I am a CPA that specializes in helping small businesses. So they're telling you what they do, who they help. Or it can be a combination of both. I'm executive coach too, and I'll give you an example of these. You'll see some examples coming up. But I do not recommend using titles because titles are not universal. A manager in one situation may do what a director does in another situation. And it doesn't tell me what you do. Focus your headline and your about section on what you offer, not what you want. I will not pay you for what you want. I will pay you for what you can do. Focus your headline and your about section on your skills, your values, in terms of the values you offer to your clients or the services that you offer to your clients or your employers. Market what you can do. In your about section, you want to put context on the headline that you have. So if you say you're a team leader, then what size team? So again, I have some examples coming up of this, but you want to wordsmith in Word where you can count the characters so you know that it fits into the section, because again, you only have about 120 characters in your headline. But also you can, once you've wordsmithed it, you can cut and paste. And by doing that, you can use Word to make sure it fits, but also to avoid typos, because there isn't, spell check is not all over LinkedIn, and I cannot tell you the number of profiles that have board of directors and facilitators and all kind of typos that are very off-putting. So you want to use your headline, your about section to add context to the skills in your headline and to make the viewer want to see more. And you want to front load your skills because you cannot assume that the viewer is going to click that see more. So you want to get it out there in case they do not click see more. So for this top third, you want to use your banner, your headline, and your summary, which is the about section, to reinforce your skill-based message. You want to make them want to scroll down to see the rest of your profile. You want to emphasize your skills over your experience. People want the best, not the oldest. You want to know what your message is so that you know what your next employer is looking for. Let them know that you know what they're looking for. Remember, viewers see your headshot and your name, your headline, and your location, if nothing else. If you have a common name like Kim Jones, then maybe you want to add a middle initial or another designation like your degree, so that you are the Kim Jones with the master's in social work or the Kim Jones with the MBA. Okay, and check your profile on a phone. This is very, very important. Even though we do our corrections and our edits on a laptop, most people nowadays do most things, they start on their phones. And things cut off much quicker in terms of your descriptions on a phone. There's less real estate to make your case. So you need to know how it looks on a phone. And there can be differences between how it looks on an iPhone versus how it looks on an Android. So you want to be aware of how it looks on a phone. Rule number 2 is to plant your flag. Present a consistent, persistent message about the 2 to 3 skills you offer, consistent with the position descriptions in your field, and be specific. Do not be all over the map. Think punch to be effective on social media. Don't dilute your message with extraneous content. So what I mean is that a punch has more power than a slap. A slap, your fingers are open. So a headline or a profile that has lots of different messages. I'm a program manager and a spoken word poet and a shoe designer, and that is a diffuse message that will not cut through the noise online. So you want to reinforce the same message about your skill set in every section of your profile, that you are the best in your field. You offer these 2 to 3 things better than anybody else. And if you want these 2 to 3 skills, you want me. We live in a specialist economy. Most of us were raised in a generalist economy, but we now live in a specialist economy where the person who commands the most for their services is the one who operates on professional athletes' MCL tears. I mean, it's just that specific. So carve out your niche. It is not how long, but how well. How well do you do what you do? Specific skills are more likely also to match the search terms used by recruiters. And being specific makes it easier for a recruiter to know how and where to place you with a potential employer. So do the work for them. Don't have them guessing about what is a good fit for you. Tell them, show them in your LinkedIn profile where you are a perfect match. And here's an example. This is my friend Terry. Now, he didn't use his banner, but his photo is the accurate representative of him. He's a very neat, very polished person. It's a friendly photo. He says he is a fiscal manager, a team leader, a relationship builder, and a strategic planner. So those are his 4 buckets, right? And then his one sentence, which is amazing, his one sentence summary says, I manage a 10-person team, a 10-member team that administers a $40 million annual budget to assist 5,000 local high school seniors and returning college students pursuing higher education. So he's telling you his industry, his field, higher education. He says he's a fiscal manager. And then I'm saying, well, I wonder what size budget, how much money does he manage? He says $40 million. Okay, he answered my question. He says he's a team leader. Wonder how big a team he could lead. 10 person, oh, perfect. Okay, now I know. So now I know as a recruiter exactly where he fits. And when that job comes across my desk that fits Terry, he's my candidate. He's my guy because I know he can do this job, right? So you're doing the work for the recruiter. Here's another example of a headline where Terry's was a who I am. This is more of a combination of who I am plus what I do. And this is my friend Cheryl Green. Now, Cheryl has a fairly common name, but she is the Cheryl L. Green with the PhD and the MBA. That's what separates her from all the other Cheryl Greens in the Washington, D.C. area. Her headline is a little bit of a slogan because she's in business for herself, but it's a combo of who she is and what she does. It says leadership consultant, executive coach to senior execs and partners, and those who aspire to be. And then she has as her about section, leveraging my Fortune 500 experience to quickly identify your business and leadership challenges. I coach for practical solutions to achieve measurable results and leave you with the tools to sustain your momentum. Who I help. Well, don't you want to know who she helps? I mean, she's enticing you to click that see more button. And she's also telling you in a subtle way what her price point is. Because if she's leveraging her Fortune 500 experience to coach senior execs, you know that she's not charging $35 an hour. Here's one that I like because Sophie manages to balance the soft and the hard, right? Sophie works in religious philanthropy. So her headline is nonprofit administrator with an organizer's precision and a servant's heart. She's showing you that she's speaking the language of her industry because in her industry, religious philanthropy, a servant's heart is very important. And that's the kind of thing people are looking for, but they still need to do business. They still need to get their work done. So while her photo is very soft, her headline talks about the heart-centeredness of her skill set. In her about section, it says she is skilled in all aspects of office administration, program management, training, running successful, well-organized virtual and in-person events, proficient in complex document creation, document management, full scope logistics. These are terms that are found in job announcements for her position. And she's saying, yes, I have a servant's heart, but I'm going to get your work done. I have skills. Third rule is cast a broad net. Often we think we know who can help us and we underestimate who can help us. Remember the pebble in the pond. The more connections you have, the further your message goes. It ripples out to more and more people, the more connections you have. You don't know the people that you're sitting next to in church, their brother-in-law may own the company that you want to work for. Their cousin might be the county executive. we pigeonhole people into certain situations and assume that this person who's sitting next to me at the soccer match can't possibly help me, or my next door neighbor doesn't know about jobs. You don't know. I tell people, you don't know, Oprah Winfrey may have been my college roommate. You don't know, right? So you want to connect broadly. Will you be a lion or a turtle? Lion stands for LinkedIn Open Networkers. These are people who will connect with anyone who sends them an invitation. That is counterintuitive for most of us. We're not interested in doing that, but that's one end of the spectrum. Some of them are recruiters and they want to build as big a database as they can, but some of them are hackers. So you want, most people, that's not a comfortable strategy. But what you don't want to be is the other end of the spectrum, which is what I call turtles. People who will only connect with people they could write a recommendation for, or that they've known for 35 years. The bottom line is say yes unless there's a reason to say no. And sometimes there is. Sometimes the person who's inviting you to connect is in a country in the former Soviet Union that you've never heard of, never been to, and have no interest in going in, and why they want to connect with you, I don't know. So that's a reason to say no. So here's how you can define your connection strategy. When someone invites you to connect, they are giving you permission to go look at their profile. So go look at their profile. See if you have any mutual connections. If you go to someone's profile and you have 65 or 100 mutual connections, then this is probably a person you should know. And you're surprised you haven't met them yet. You tend, you know a lot of the same people. Or maybe this is a person who can provide information for you. In terms of the companies that they've worked for or the expertise that they have. Maybe you have common interests or common goals and you can help each other. One of the things that happens when we are between jobs is we feel we have nothing to offer, and that's not true. You still have your experiences, you still have your connections, your network, you still have the opportunity to recommend people, to endorse people, to share information with people. So, and if none of these are apparent to you as to why this person would be connecting to you, you can always send a reply message saying, thanks for your invitation to connect. Can you remind me of how we know each other, or who might have referred you, or how I can be helpful to you? And then if they do not respond, then you don't invite them to connect. Sending this message to them is not connecting to them. They are only a part of your profile. You are only connected to them when you hit the connect button, when you accept their invitation to connect. Sending them a message asking, how can I be helpful to you, or who referred you, is not the same as connecting with them. When you are inviting people to connect, I encourage you to always include a note. So when you hit the connect button, LinkedIn gives you the option of including a 300-character note. I really encourage you to use that because people are asking the same question you are asking when you invite people to connect. Do I know you? How do I know you? Answer the question. It's just a memory prompt. Hi, it was great meeting you at such and such event. I'd love to continue the conversation. Let's connect. Just that short. That's all they need to know. How do I know you? The final rule is engage. Focus on building professional relationships and providing value to your connections. But remember, the ultimate goal is to move the conversation offline, into a phone call, into a Zoom chat, hopefully someday soon into meeting for coffee or lunch, so that they can give you what everyone can give, which is advice or insights or information, but not a job. Because when you ask for a job and they can't give it, then they feel bad. But they can always give advice. They can always talk about their situation or what they know, or what's going on at their company. So that they can give. Or schedule a 10-minute phone chat and you say, I'll give you the first 5 minutes to get to know more about you, because people always appreciate people who are interested in them. And then I'll take the last 5 minutes, and then you can share what you would like to do next in your career. So here's my final road ready checklist. Givers get. Endorse people, recommend them, comment, like, share, respond to birthday and anniversary notifications to add value and to stay on your network's radar screen. Create a headline that tells what you do and distinguishes you from the other people that do what you do. Know what your profile looks like on a phone. Make sure the skills in your headline and in your about section match the ones in your skills and endorsements section. I'm amazed at the people who put a certain set of skills in their headline, and then when you scroll down to their skills and endorsements, it's a completely different set of skills. You want every section to reinforce the same message. Get endorsements. It's sort of like stars on Amazon. When I look at a product, I want the one with at least 4 stars. Now, all of those stars could have come from people who make the product and work at the company that makes the product. I don't know. But still, as a first cut, I want the one with 4 stars. If you have worked, as long as you have worked, and you can't get more than 1 or 2 people to come to your profile and hit a plus sign, which is all an endorsement takes, then I wonder how good you really are at what you say you do. Create templates for your invitations and messages in Word, then customize them and paste the content to maximize your time and to avoid typos. Don't wordsmith every single communication, because every time you type is an opportunity to make a typo. And as I said, there's not spell check all over LinkedIn. So there's, inviting people to connect, have sort of a standard message that you use, and you can personalize it by typing in the person's name. Include live logos, like the logos that I clicked on. Include those where possible, because it makes your page look more professional, your profile look more professional, but it's also an opportunity to grow your network. Use every section to reinforce your consistent, persistent, skill-based message, and leave the superlatives to others. We know you wrote this. Okay, now I believe we have a 5-minute Q&A coming up, but we're a little bit short on time, so I want to just get this in, and then we'll come back to the Q&A. I am offering what I call my quarantine special, which is a free 1-page LinkedIn profile review to serve as your GPS on the road to success on LinkedIn. So I will do a 1-page review of your profile, going through each of the sections and offering recommendations of ways you can improve. So all you have to do is to connect with me on LinkedIn. Include a reminder as to who you are in that little 300-character note saying I was on the LinkedIn session for 40 plus, so that I know who you are and why you're inviting me to connect. Don't use an in-mail. So if you go to my profile and you don't see a connect button, this is one of the crazy quirks that when Microsoft purchased LinkedIn that they did. There are some profiles you go to, you won't see the connect button. That doesn't mean it's not there. If you look at the more, there's a box that says more in the top third of every profile. Click on the more, and in the drop down will be the connect button. Then you can hit the connect, write the little note, and then invite me to connect. But don't waste an in-mail, because if you are on the free program, meaning you're not on premium, you only have a small number of in-mails for the life of your account. If you're on a paid program, they replenish that pot of in-mails every month. But on the free platform, you only have a certain number over the life of your account, so you don't want to waste them. And an in-mail is an email message to a person you are not connected to. So anytime you try to communicate on LinkedIn with someone who's not a first-degree connection, you are sending them an in-mail, and you only have a limited number of those, okay? So this is my final page. You can email me at elisse@vintageworkforce.com with the questions that I know you all have, which I'm sorry we're not going to be able to get them all. And you can also schedule a 20 or 30-minute phone chat with me at calendly.com/Elisse Wright.
Elisse, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Throughout the presentation, we peaked at 100, which is the absolute max that we can get in a presentation.
That's awesome.
So we really appreciate everything you've done for us, and we look forward to staying in contact with you.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to it as well. The power of LinkedIn.
The power of LinkedIn. And you were correct, by the way, we are second degree connections by Jeffrey. one of the
Uh-huh.
questions, I just remembered one of the questions is
Yes.
how do you tell who your common connection is? And there is actually on the, is it your home page?
Yes, on your LinkedIn profile, it shows your mutual connections. So when you go to their page, so if I go to your page, as you just went to, you saw who our mutual connections were
Right. All right.
when
So
you
I
went to
went
your
to,
page.
yeah, I'm
No,
going
I'm
to your
sorry, when
home
you went to
page.
my page, you saw our mutual connections.
Right, right. It's right under your banner. It's right under
Right,
your banner. And
yeah,
that's where you find out. And in our case, we have 16 mutual connections.
connections, right. And then if you click on that, it'll show you who all of them are, because that's a live link.
And some good people there that we have in
Yes,
connection.
exactly.
Um, oh, wow. And some that I haven't seen in a while. So, oh, this is very interesting. All right. So, and it really is, you can get addicted to this actually. Oh my goodness. Yeah. We'll have to chat afterwards because I want to talk to you about how you know some of these individuals.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, Elise, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for the invitation to speak. I really appreciate it very much. And John, it's been a pleasure getting a chance to talk with you today.